This is Guardian Radio, your station for up-to-the-minute news, intelligent, interactive, and engaging conversation. 96.9 FM. The views and opinions of the hosts and guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the position of the management and staff of Guardian Network.
You know I was legal when I come to you. You gave me food, clothes, and protection too. You said don't worry about a thing, just show your loyalty. It's the comfort that you'll bring. When I look around, I got papers and passport waiting on my visa. I soon gonna be straight. Boss lady tell me send for family. She can clean me out and I am the clothes for me. Confidential, it's a confidential thing. This matter is serious, we don't know what it will bring. Confidential, we must regulate this thing. Confidential, we don't know what it will bring.
It's a confidential thing. Good morning, this is Guardian Radio AM, and this is CA Newry, and I'm excited today. I'm excited today because we are talking about Bahamian middle class. But before we go there, I wonder if the Minister of Immigration is aware that there's a confidential thing happening. Because I'm going to say that because I want to read this. This has been a declaration that came out yesterday that the Minister of Immigration said. He said, and I quote, "If you are an illegal migrant on New Providence, Abaco, Eleuthera, Harbour Island, Grand Bahama, or anywhere else on this archipelago, you must leave. You must immediately wind up your affairs and leave the Bahamas voluntarily. Failure to do so will lead to your arrest, prosecution, deportation, and placement on a restricted list, which will completely bar you from any further entry into this country." That was Keith Bell, Minister of Immigration. And I say that to say this. He must not know about this confidential thing. I want you to listen to that Elon Moxie word and read words in a song and realize that there's an underground system that supersedes whatever madness Keith Bell is trying to say. I remember we had a Prime Minister, Hubert Minnis, who said the same thing. Same thing. Pack up and go immediately or else. You know what happened? The numbers doubled, skyrocketed. It's a confidential thing. But that's not what we're talking about today. I invited Aaron Green to have a conversation with me about the Bahamian middle class and whether they betrayed Bahamiana. It's going to be a complex conversation, and I'm going to have the academic Aaron Green define one or two words, for me. What is the middle class? How does the Bahamian middle class look? And I want her to analyze the Afrozoid Bahamians, Afro-Bahamians, and where they used to live, the middle class. And of course, the white Bahamians and where they used to live and who is still living inside that environment, and what does Bahamian middle class look like? So I'm going to start with this, right? Once upon a time in New Providence, the Bahamian middle class lived over the hill, right? And over hill extended from downward from Bay Street all the way to Wolf Road, and these were working class people and taking care of their homes. Also, they had a white Bahamian middle class who lived in Centerville Camp Road. What's that place near that old Wendy's section?
Palmdale side.
No, Palmdale, the opposite, through the corner, the old Wendy's. Anyway, through the corner going towards Camp Road, and someone can text me and correct me of that area. Twynham, back at Twynham. They had a population of white Bahamian middle class still there, right? Currently, the white Bahamian middle class, working class, are still in Twynham. Mm-hmm. And are still in the back of the old city market or on Rosetta Street, a back area.
North of that.
North of that. However, the black Bahamian middle class that used to live off Wolf Road, used to live off Fort Fincastle, used to live between Fort Charlotte, is gone. They have gone and abandoned their traditional historic areas. They've moved west. They've moved east. They've moved to Carmichael South. And now there's a new person living in that immediate over the hill area. Mm-hmm. And I want to know the description of those people. Who are they? Who have been replaced? And why the over the hill area looks like how it is now. Is there something that happened that caused that? And that's what we're going to be talking about and discussing. And I say I have a caller early, but I'm going to ask Erin before we even go to the caller. In your opinion, what is the Bahamian middle class? How does that look? What does it look like?
I'm glad you asked me because you think that my name is Grupo.
Yes.
But I come here today to tell you that I don't think there is a Bahamian middle class.
Madness. There must be a Bahamian middle class.
There's only working class.
My Lord.
There's only those who have to work and those who don't have to work.
See, I'm going to have you define what is working class now, because now I thought that I was middle class, and now you have degraded me down to a working class Bahamian. So I need to understand your definition of working class so the listening audience can appreciate it and say, okay, I see what you're trying to say.
The working class are those that have to work.
I have to work. Yes, I do have to work.
There's no reliance on the political class, and there's no reliance on the merchant class, right? You're not a part of the merchant class.
No, I'm not a part of the merchant class.
You can't create or devise or pop up with an income-generating mechanism.
But I have a microwave.
Substantial
I
enough
have an answering machine, right? I have a nice car. Clearly, I am middle class. I have these trinkets. I go away. I go away once a year. I go to Miami. I mean, in fact, it's not like Florida, but I go away.
I will accept your definition of middle class for the purposes of this conversation.
No. I need a right definition. Perhaps I am confused and realize I have middle class trinkets, but I'm actually working class.
That's exactly what I think is happening for the vast majority of people. That they have middle class trinkets. They have things, right? But they are actually working class. And I think it's dangerous to just take that middle class descriptor and lay it over the Bahamas like a blanket, right? I think our proximity to the U.S., a couple maybe on the reverse side with our small population, they create these dynamics where we don't have a large enough population size to actually sustain a middle class, for there to actually be a middle class. I think we are all working class people with trinkets that we associate with the middle class. But I think middle class is above 2 paychecks away from financial ruin.
Okay, I'm there. So clearly I'm not middle class. But in fact, Erin, when I was younger, I grew up off East Street, over the hill area, right? And my friends, the people I grew up with said, Cecil, you are a person of privilege. You happen to go to one of the better private schools, right? You happen to have 1 or 2 trinkets to say that you, despite we live in a clapboard house where we share in bed, you are middle class in contrast to them, or at that point in time, because their house was leaning. Their house had the breeze flowing through. You can see the front door and the back door. That one door goes straight throughout.
Shotgun house.
Yes, right? So, and then when I went to my school, it happened to be white Bahamians there. Their house was different. They had stone houses. There were 3 bedrooms, 1 bath, right? And like I said, they lived of Twynham. You know, they live in Palmdale. And I said, they weren't middle class, I thought. I said, those people were rich. And now when I'm listening to you and your definition, I realized that perhaps they were working class. And perhaps they were middle class. And perhaps my family, were working class. Is that what you're saying?
I think so, yeah. I mean, at that time, yeah. I appreciate what you're saying, though, in terms of your definition of the middle class, right? Like, I think middle class is it's almost like a journey. It's like a process. Middle class is your ability to mobilize yourself. Working class is sort of like you stuck. You reach the middle class when you can save money and use it to build yourself up more.
Yes.
Right? And I think working class is those people who they just working.
Just working.
There's no
They working to pay bills.
right. There's no saving of anything. There's just working and paying bills, and we're always in arrears.
So when they say that the majority of Bahamians do not have $1,000 in their bank account, that's a testimony that we are not middle class. We are working class people, the majority of us.
Well, yeah.
Okay. But you see, we have a caller here. Let's pass the
Yeah.
caller through, and then I'll continue to prod you in terms of these definitions, because I want to know what you mean by this political class. You know, and there's an economic class that has wealth. I want to know how is that impacting this working class population that we do have. But go ahead, caller. Welcome to Guiding Radio AM.
All these days, Tuesday stacking away so long with you and Aaron Newry. I want to piggyback on see above show you and Aaron had. But first I want to say, right, see Bell, right, Mr. Bell. He talked about the situation with Shantytown on Paradise Island, and he made a statement that the people or the person born here. Now, he have nothing to prove that they're born here, and that what make him to believe that even if that person born here, and the children that was with that person had right to be over there illegal. And he could tell the Bahamian people that they're born here. That has nothing to do with us. Okay, that's crap. Other thing is, right, Aaron, you said something earlier about being dragged.
Into the
You
future.
used that terminology forward, right?
Yeah.
The thing is, the Bahamian people are intelligent. You see, the thing is, the people that are in the House of Assembly, the majority of them would run in the whole Bahamas. They only have a bachelor degree. And a bachelor hardly saying anything. Now, being a lawyer, they work with technicality and stuff. But once you are intelligent, you could be you could master those lawyers when it comes to comprehension and stuff like that. My other point is, right, now, this situation where the Bahamas going to get so much of billions of dollars, right? We need what you would call a mathematician and an economist on your show to explain to us what we got to get, the poor people, the middle class people. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
The rich people going to take what they want to take. But the thing is, it belongs to the Bahamas, the Bahamian people. So we need a economist and a mathematician to just,
Yeah, I with you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bremen. And let's continue with our discussion with definitions.
Yeah.
One of the points what Bremen brought up just now was we poor people, right? And oftentimes when we have the debates, especially when we challenge in government, say government need to help the poor people. Who is that poor people? Are they working class people, or these are really indigent Bahamians that they're speaking about, saying, no, there's no opportunity for poor people to survive. We need more, poor people need more jobs. Who are these poor people that they're talking about?
All right, that's fascinating. That came up recently in another story. I think they're indigent, right? There are people who may be on the family island, still living in the grandmommy house that was built 100 years ago. No car. Subsistence farming, right? Mind you, same time, you can't be poor on the you can't be broke on the family islands. You need money to survive on the family islands, right? But then we have this group of people who are the working poor.
The working poor.
They working. Like, for instance, we've been talking about food distribution services, and we've been talking about, in the paper, there's discussions about social services. and this idea that people who don't really need the support, the services, are getting them before people who really need it. And I want us to not discount that there are people who are working and still only amassing 75% of the income they need to support themselves and their family, right? There are people who are not working and need support, and there are people who are working and still need
They're
support.
short, no matter how hard they work.
Right, and that's just justified. There's evidence of that, right? We got those two sets of people who are sort of being pitted against each other right now. Let's see, we get a call.
I see we get a caller, and I want to understand this political class, because we know we have wealthy people. We have wealthy foreigners. We have wealthy Bahamians. We have middle-class Bahamians who making $100,000 a year. I'm going to ask you to, if that number is a good number, right? And then we have the working class people that you say is basically the majority of Bahamians, right? I want to know, where does the political class fall into that? But I'm going to do that after the caller. Go ahead, caller.
Yeah. The middle class for me, right? The middle class is someone that earns a particular salary. So someone that, let's say, an access of $40,000 per month.
Per month?
That's the middle class.
Per month or per year?
Pardon?
Per month or per year?
Per month. Per year.
That's about you.
That's good too. Money is
that's the middle class.
But
whether they work and then those who are on pension, from that, they work extra amount of years and now they're on a pension. They're still the middle class, because of their wealth, the wealth that they acquire, their homes and,
But Louis,
and the like.
Louis, let me engage you briefly. $40,000 a year ain't much money.
No, but that's the middle class.
I have people who make that, who can't own a house, can't afford a house. How can you be making $40,000 a year, can't own a house, and you call yourself middle class?
The middle class. They're still.
Hello, are you there?
So the percentage, they're in the middle. Understand what I mean?
Okay.
So then you get the wealthy, and or not. The millionaire, they're different grades. But people in the middle, so that's they're the middle class.
Louis, we have a bad connection, but I appreciate your contribution today. I have a text here. Aaron says that, so you're asking me, so you're saying we have an upper working class, a middle working class, and a lower working class? I agree with that, but I want you to analyze that. Everything is working class, and we have a working class people who making surviving paycheck to paycheck, gotta go to work. If they get sick for 3 weeks, they turn bankrupt. You gotta be borrowing money left, right, and center. And there's an upper version of that who's making, like Louis is saying, $40,000, $50,000 a year. That's the upper working class.
No,
they
man,
got to go to work.
40 to 50,000 gotta be.
But they ain't have nothing saved. They ain't have no money saved. They ain't have $1,000.
That's what I'm saying. They gotta be middle. They gotta be a middle.
But they
working class.
have no money saved.
Or they gotta be a lower to middle working class.
So they downgraded.
But this is what I'm saying. Like, I think it's problematic to apply this blanket economic term that's been created for and developed within these larger developed states to a small island developing state, right? And then our economy is skewed, right? Our economy is skewed. We know that the numbers on paper, when the UN, as an advocate, when they are defining the brackets for aid, right, for country, the Bahamas, we don't fit in the bracket with the rest of the region.
Yes.
We up high because they're taking into account all of the money generated by all of the money within, like, the financial services industry and all the foreigners who are now Bahamians for the purpose of keeping their money here and all that sort of. It's skewed. That's another thing that we have to make an assessment of. And I just think it's dangerous to apply that blanket term to the Bahamas. You then your expectations of what Bahamians could do and what they should be doing or be able to do is skewed. The whole thing is skewed. This the majority of people here are working class
Working
people
class
and
people.
cannot stop. And I think that's my definition. You cannot stop working.
No, I understand it. I have a
Yeah.
text here saying that how can I say $100,000 is a middle class?
With the person, when we were looking at real property tax assessments, right? And the declaration that if you hit the $100,000 threshold, that means you bringing in gross approximately $385 per week. Gross, right? That's, so how many people are being paid $385 a week after taxation, after you pull out NIB, and I don't think we include insurance as a tax, right? But it's outside of NIB, $100,000 isn't a lot of money, and most people ain't making that.
Most people are making that.
Yeah.
The majority of Bahamians making less than $40,000 a year.
Yeah.
But those people include clearly wrongly, are suggesting that they're part of the middle class.
Yeah.
And when they know they got to go to work, they got to go to work to pay their bills.
Yeah.
But I want to know, basically, according to bills, according to expenses, where would the middle class start? I would say middle class perhaps in this economy, which is more
Yeah.
expensive than the U.S., right? It has to start with $70,000 a year, right? Because I know some expats who make $70,000 here in tourism, right? And they call themselves working class because they can't buy anything with that small money,
Yeah.
right? And Bahamians eager to say, when I get rich one of these days to make $70,000, I believe I'd be considered myself rich. But that's middle class money.
In fact, I just thought about this stat 2 years ago. The Bahamas ranked number 6, the 6th highest cost of living in the world, eh? And I think this year or 2022 we were ranked at number 4, 4th highest cost of living
In the world.
In the world. That I think that includes Mars and Venus as well,
Yeah.
and the Moon. It includes all of them. So what does that mean for your $70,000?
Imagine, again, I'm going to use the word 40,000 because I know Lewis Collins say 40,000 is middle class. That's in the
Yeah.
middle, right? Imagine you making $40,000 and that's about $700 a week-ish, right? And you are living in a country that is the 4th most expensive country in the world. You can't buy anything.
No, you can't. And so, like I say, the whole thing, that's why I used to say anti-capitalist, anti-imperialist, but like beyond capitalist, beyond imperialist advocate. Because I've grown up in a cultural space where the joke was your light bill could be the same as your mortgage.
Yes.
Probably is. You know, that's just ridiculous. You could call yourself whatever you want to call yourself.
Yes.
In that environment, you're still broke.
Still broke.
Yeah.
You're still boring.
Middle class, whatever, you're still very, very broke.
So I have this text says, great show as usual, Miss Green. Nothing is get me more than people calling other people grassroots. You realize that speaking poverty on people. That's not a definition of grassroots. What is grassroots?
Yeah, grassroots is not the same as poverty, as living in poverty. That's two different things. That grassroots is like a political term.
It's a political term.
And poverty is an economic term, right? And so designating somebody grassroots is not a slur or an attack on them. It doesn't denigrate them. It's not a lower status. Now, in the political culture, grassroots, of course, is at the bottom of the hierarchy. But that's the political culture that has designed itself to prioritize itself.
Okay.
Right?
So another text says, great show as usual. There is no more middle class. When last y'all felt middle class? There is only rich, poor, and seem rich? And Sam rich. So I guess Sam Fried. But Sam Fried's a different type of rich, right? So let's call rich. Does that start at $1 million?
See,
Or rich doesn't start?
this is it.
Or
right?
that's middle class,
This-
$1 million?
We got an important notice here to read in a
Yes.
moment. This is skewed, right? Because I bet you the people in Life at Key thought they was rich until they found out what was happening in Albany.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? Like I know they thought
Different type of money altogether.
completely and totally different type of people.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so it's also about perspective. When the text says, look here, you got those who have to work, those who don't have to work, and those who, for whatever reason, have been marginalized from work, can't work, whether they are unemployable, whether they refuse employment, whether they are mentally incapable of sustaining employment. There's another group of people who can't work, right? And that doesn't, like, you see, this is interesting, because that doesn't include the Haitian migrant. That doesn't include the migrant.
That's a different type of level.
Working, buddy.
Yeah.
You know? And I think there are some peculiarities about the Bahamas. The small island developing state, 1, proximity to the U.S. and global north, 2, archipelagic nature, 3, right? And then juxtapose that to the centralization of governance and services. And I think all of those dynamics also have to be considered collectively and on their own before we make a determination of who is middle class, whether we sustain a middle class, right? And who is working class, and the categories of working class. Because the politicians, people in the political class now will attempt to convince you that they working class.
But let's talk about the political class before I read this text. In fact, let me read this text, and then you give me a definition. Say, well, thank you guys. You made me realize just how poor I really am. I make less than $50,000 a year, and I always thought I was middle class. Well, now you're informed. You broke.
I mean, and look here, without attacking anybody, without like conjuring conspiracy theories, right? It behooves the political class to convince you that you're rich and you have money to spend. It behooves the merchant class to convince you that you're rich and you have money to spend, right? I argue that there's lots of money in this town, but we live in a state of poverty collectively because we don't divert those resources where they need to be. We got a whole bunch of people here, and I want you all to know that I paused and I thought about it before I said it. We have a whole bunch of people here who are spending money that's intended, that should be directed and diverted to collective development, and we spending it on disposable, personal, recreational experiences.
But go ahead, and before we go to the caller, I want to know political class.
So I think remember a few years ago, we defined a category of people who are politically exposed. You are either in frontline politics, frontline politics, or you are related, immediate relation to somebody in politics or frontline politics, right? And I think the political class are the politicians, the people who benefit, their relatives, the people who benefit or who have proximity to governance, right? And benefit through their proximity to politicians and governance.
So that's like me getting a contract. Because I know my MP, I could get a contract.
No, that's not like because you know you're
I'm not politically class?
I don't think so. I don't know all your family members, right? But I tell people that I am politically exposed because my mother wasn't just a civil servant. She's a long-standing civil servant that worked in various ministries that gave me a degree of proximity to governance and to politics and politicians.
And benefits you, like I said, you're a woman of privilege, but you are still working class.
Yeah, because I'm on the fringe, right?
The fringe.
Fringe
group.
Right, because I refuse to take advantage of the opportunities that would be available to me in the political class. And I position myself on the fringe of the political, because I can't divorce myself of it, right? It's like there's a thing that I can't get rid of. It's nothing I could divest of. But I would define myself as on the fringe of the political class, if not politically exposed.
Okay, before we go to the caller, this text says, someone making $385 per week is only making $20,000 a year. To make $100,000 per year, you need to make at least $385 per day. how many nail
Ah,
techs?
it was a typo in the.
Yeah.
It was so there must have been a typo in the article.
Yes. So how many nail techs do you know make $385 per day every day of that year? That's a lot of money to make.
This is
make
what I'm saying. The people aren't
$100,000.
middle class.
So definitely the nail techs are in middle class.
Right. Now, listen, we got a caller. It was
Yeah.
fascinating, right? We could say that the vast majority of people are working class. They have to work.
Yes.
There's still a lot of money in this town. And there's still a lot of upward mobility people can garner, right, that they could gain if they organize themselves differently, right? And maybe that's an element, right, that we bring into our definition of middle class. It's your ability to mobilize with what you have. Maybe. You know what I'm saying? Maybe.
Let's go to the caller. Go ahead, caller. Garden Radio AM. Go ahead, caller. Can you hear me, caller? Producer, nothing? No, there's no caller. I can go. Okay, go ahead, caller. I can hear you now.
Hello,
Go ahead. How you doing?
Mr. Newry, how you doing again?
Yeah, man. Good.
Okay, let's go middle class. Miss Green, how you doing too?
Good.
Let's go. Miss Green, let me ask you a question quickly. When you first traveled out of Bombers, go from there, which airport did you leave from?
I traveled internationally as a little child. I am not certain was the first airport, but the first one I remember is what we now call LPIA.
Okay. The first time I traveled, I left from the area, what you call the Queen Elizabeth Sports Center. It was Oaksville, Mackey Airlines, going to Florida. No, we're going to Miami. In them days, you guys in Miami. That's where you used to go, Miami. Downtown, Flagler Street, Biscayne Boulevard. All right? Now, I say that to say this. When we talk about this middle class and everything, I was there when National Insurance started. Now, I'm 71 and I retired. Okay? If you luckily to get $1,000 a month from National Insurance after all that contribution, you get, how much? How much you get? That's $12,000 a year, right? You can live off that nowadays? Okay, so that's about what I get per month. I still got a balance on a mortgage. I got light bill, water bill, cable bill, just like everybody else. I got a condiment there, grocery, and everything to do too. Do you know that there was what you call a middle class right on Shirley's on East Bay Street? You know there was a settlement on East Bay Street, just east of Camp Road, called Poitier Avenue.
Now,
Poitier
Sparky,
Lane.
only poor family islanders live in settlements. You know what you're talking
Listen
about.
to me, Miss Gray. Listen to me, please, sometime, man.
Go ahead,
There
Frank.
were some people right on East Bay Street. There was a settlement called Poitier Lane, right round by Brown's Boat Basin, by the Harbor Bay Shopping, the Harbor Bay Dam. There were the people from maybe Abaco or Spanish Wells or the place in Iluchu, what they call it, what island that is, Corey Island, I forget it is like that. There was a group of people used to be there with a church and everything, through a little small alley, maybe a bicycle or maybe a car could go up there and turn around and come back out. The other day I went up to Poitier Lane and I found it. That little settlement is not there anymore. I asked the man and fixing my old car. He said, where Poitier? I asked him, I said, where Poitier Lane is? He said, you on Poitier Lane? I said, where to change? He said, man, all them people going back to the islands they came from. They went back to Abaco and Spanish Wells where they came from. When you go over Wolf Road or over south of St. Gregory's Arch, how many white people, how much white Bahamians you know? I mean, from Abaco, Spanish Wells, wherever you see walking around Wolf Road, around East Street and so forth and everything. Do you think we have poor white people here too? Or what we call Conky Joe?
Yes, of course.
Where do they live?
Camp Road.
Where do they, which areas do they live in? They poor. A lot of them ain't waking in, you know. A lot of them is drinking rum just like the fellas over the hill, you know. Where do they live?
Camp Road.
Johnson Road.
Johnson Road.
They're lovely.
Yes.
They,
some of the best
brought them
residents.
in Johnson Road. I know because, see, my cousins, they're my mother's brother, they used to live around my Poitier Lane.
Sparky.
But after my
We
mother,
have to
my
take a
uncle
commercial
and
break
my
there.
auntie died, Aunt Dolly and Uncle Kenny died, Get children moved up into Johnson Road.
We're going to take a commercial break there, Sparky, and I appreciate the contribution there. When we come back, we have a press release that we're going to read, and this has been Guardian Radio in the AM, and we'll be right back shortly.
You know I was legal when I come to you. You gave me food, clothes, and protection too. You said don't worry about a thing. Just show your loyalty. It's the comfort that you
Always on the go? Missed the show? You can now listen to Guardian Radio talk shows anytime, anywhere on Spotify and YouTube by searching Guardian Radio 96.9 FM or by entering the name of your favorite show. You can also listen by logging on to GuardianTalkRadio.com and clicking on the podcast tab. Guardian Radio, continuing to provide you with fresh news and smart talk anywhere, anytime, all day.
Love the show? Want to give your support? Become a sponsor today. Call 302-2300 for our rates and packages. That's 302-2300. Become a sponsor on Guardian Radio 96.9 FM. Fresh news, smart talk, all day.
The new Guardian Radio app is here. Listen live to all our Guardian Radio shows and live video stream select programs in our studio. Get information about Guardian Radio shows and our hosts. Send messages including text, email, and even call. All from our amazing new Guardian Radio app. Download it free today in your App Store for your Apple device or Play Store for your Android device. The all-new and improved Guardian Radio app.
This is Guardian Radio 96.9 FM. Fresh news, smart talk, all day.
And welcome back to Guardian Radio in the AM with C.A. Newry. And of course, I have Aaron Green as a guest. And we're going to go straight to the press release that is happening about the March to 50 and the event that is happening on Bay Street today. But go ahead, Aaron.
This is a traffic press release notice. Official launch of the 50th anniversary of independence logo and theme on Thursday, the 19th of January, 2023 at 7 p.m. The official launch of the 50th anniversary of independence logo and theme will be held in Rawson and Parliament Squares on Thursday, the 19th of January, 2023, commencing at 7 p.m. That is today. On Thursday, today, from 12 p.m.
That's noon. Now.
Noon.
Yeah, after the show.
No vehicles will be allowed to park on Bay Street, Bank Lane, or Parliament Street. I repeat, no vehicles will be allowed to park on Bay Street, Bank Lane, and Parliament Street from noon today. Traffic diversion is as follows. From 3 p.m., vehicular traffic will not be permitted east on Bay Street from Frederick Street to East Street. Traffic traveling east on Bay Street will be diverted south on Frederick Street. No vehicular traffic will be permitted to travel along Woods Rogers Wharf,
The back road.
between Charlotte and East Streets. No parking from noon today in the following areas. These areas are now at noon designated no parking zones. Bay Street, both sides, Parliament Street, and Bank Lane. Bay Street, both sides, Parliament Street, and Bank Lane. Now, it says 12 a.m. in the notice, so I imagine traffic may have been closed from this morning.
What's happening today on
Right.
Bay Street?
So I think we're going to have the official launch, or the launch and the announcement of the official logo and theme for the 50th anniversary of independence. See, for a few days I was running my own theme. Chickchani's back again, 50th independence.
Yeah.
But that's not the official theme.
We're going to finally know what the theme is.
Right, the official theme the official logo.
In the logo.
That would have been the selection, right? The winner of the logo competition.
So what about the schedule of events?
Well, I'm hoping that this announcement will be accompanied by the schedule of events and a brief synopsis on some of the most engaging activities planned for the Road to 50.
Interesting. So logo, come to see the logo and the theme.
Yeah.
You think they have any food?
They better have food.
Yeah, maybe right in the hot sun, some refreshments.
Better celebrate it.
Yeah.
You got plenty of money to spend. In fact, I would, there should have been a call for vendors from across the archipelago to be able to come to Nassau and sell food, specific menus designed to herald Bahamian culture and culinary culture over the last 50 years, right? There should be a special event, if not a culinary festival. The Agribusiness Expo should be
all kind of ideas
geared towards the 50th independence. There should be a culinary event, showcase, and competition attached to that. And so you showcasing culinary skill, but you're also giving vendors an opportunity to come to New Providence and make some Nassau money. You know what they say?
Nassau money never done.
Say Nassau money.
But
That's what
I
they
just
say.
make sure there's food. I can't be in the hot sun and there's no food.
No, it's 7 p.m. It ain't gonna be no hot sun.
But there could be food.
It better be food.
Okay. But let's continue the conversation, right?
Yeah.
And that's the announcement for today to make sure that you just don't go that way. Just
Understand
go around.
that there'll be no parking from 12 a.m. That's what the notice says.
Okay, so from this morning.
Bay Street, both sides, Parliament Street, and Bank Lane.
Taxi drivers must be vexed.
And we will have the launch of the 50th anniversary of independence logo and theme this evening, 7 p.m., Rawson and Parliament Squares.
And there's going to be food.
There better be food.
Good. But let's go continue our conversation with middle class.
Because we like food in the middle class.
Yes.
In fact, we expect refreshments.
I mean, if you didn't give me no money, why to give me food?
Yeah.
Yeah, Bahamian delights, Turkish delights.
But then again, maybe that's the government's recognition, right, of either the state of the middle class or the working class. And it's one thing I appreciate, although we tend to make fun of it. Government meetings provide refreshments because they acknowledge that you had to take time out of your day, whether it was the time you were going to spend to make money to buy food or the time you were going to spend eating.
And 7 o'clock is dinner time.
Right, and we balance you with that.
Might feed me.
Yeah.
But who lives now over the hill? We know that the middle class has abdicated the over the hill area, right? So I want to know who lives in the over the hill community, which was once the general middle class for black Bahamians.
Working people.
Working class people.
Yeah. Working class people.
And people would, I give you this. Picture the Grove.
Right.
If you go to the Grove now, there's a number of stores.
Yeah.
Right? Community stores, barber shops, nail techs, storefronts, merchant storefronts. But these are owned by new generation Bahamians. Haitian Bahamian, Jamaican Bahamians, and they have fruit stands and stalls or whatever. So I asked you that question to say, these are the working class people who have replaced the old merchants of the Bahamas. The Chinese are there also.
This is fascinating. See why I say we may need to re-examine and redefine, because you know who else lives over the hill? I think working class Chinese Bahamians live over the hill. But what brings what's the same about the three groups of people you called, right? These are all upwardly mobile people, right, who have businesses and have a mechanism to generate income. But most importantly, I think, and I may be wrong, I asked the question of the Chinese Bahamian, the Jamaican Bahamian, the Haitian Bahamian, are they living where they making money? Right? Are they living in the communities that their businesses are in? And have Bahamians created their own definition of middle class, right? Where I have a business and I don't have to live in the business.
Yes.
I live, and I don't have to live in the community the business is in. It's sort of similar to a new part of the political class where politicians, they don't have to live in the constituency that they represent.
Removed. Yeah.
Yeah, right? And in fact, I think some are now suggesting, because there's a constant evolution of the job description of the MP, is that if you live in the constituency that somehow you are bad, like that's a bad move. That's not a good
Mother
move.
Pratt lived in her constituency of Centerville. That's
Yeah.
not Centerville. What area that is?
I can't remember.
But wherever,
yeah,
St. Cecilius.
Yeah,
St.
but
Cecilius.
Mother Pratt is considered a different type of politician.
But the house big though. That's a mansion. Just that.
You ain't see the video.
high walls. You have high walls and
Look here.
and those barb fence, but
Yeah,
a big
but
house.
Did you see the video yesterday on social media? The young girl saying, "All my friends ask me why I buying a house.
Mm-hmm.
What you doing? You ain't old. Why you buying a house?" And she was showing us not just the original house that she bought, but the addition to the house that she was able to put on
Mm.
after several years of working and saving money to do that. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Still could be working class.
She could be working class
And working hard.
because she missed a paycheck. That whole house gone.
Well, because she saved money by staying in the community she was born in.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's an assumption there, right? There's an assumption there. But I will say this: we were talking earlier that you asked, well, who lives over the hill? Whoever filled the gap
Yes.
once upwardly mobile people moved out.
Should we be concerned that there's a large population of new generation Bahamians in the Overhill community?
We should be concerned in the way that we should be concerned about everything that's happening. That's not a judgment statement. I'm not saying that there's something negative that automatically happens, right? But I do think that unmonitored, right? Like a vacuum was created. I use my family again as an example. My mother moved out of the Fort Hill, moved into the suburbs. In fact, she said we were given a directive, whether conscious or overt or covert, that we have a responsibility to grow the country, and home ownership, right, as national development is a part of this program. And so people were encouraged to leave the inner city communities to continue to build the country. I say that in that moment when they left and there was no intentional plan to preserve and support the culture, existing culture, and the evolution of culture, that whoever filled that vacuum once they left, no matter what they brought, because there was not an intentional collective movement of people and culture, that we lost a whole bunch.
Interesting. Let's go quickly to this caller. Producer, patch the caller through there. Yes, 1 minute to see that. Go ahead, caller. We have 1 minute to go.
Hey,
Make it quick.
I want to ask you all. Hey, Newry.
Hey.
I don't want to, Happy New Year. I don't want to ask you and Aaron. Happy New Year, Aaron. Poppy, I don't want to ask for two of you all, since you all this be combining you all show sometime and sometime do it separately. If you all could find time, just a suggestion or a request, to maybe let's see if we could bring on some professionals who deal with the children that most be getting molested, and maybe see if we could try to figure out or ask questions. Are we losing too much of our kid? That's another baby. They saying on the road is blood force trauma. We still waiting on the autopsy to find out exactly what happened.
Okay.
I with you, Papa.
No problem.
That was my top issue of the year for 2022. I with you.
Okay, let me read this before we go.
Yeah.
Say, hi, Mr. Newry and Aaron. There will be free food given. I heard this on the radio from one of the committee members being interviewed. So there you have it. Pass by. There can be free food. All kind of Bahamian delights.
Why can people need